Special guest Brett Kollmann today on the Vikings draft and learning from mistakes. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much to those of you who listen to this show every other day, as this is still kind of out of town mode. But thank you so much to everybody who comes and hangs out. If you are new here, you can, of course, find this show wherever you find your favorite podcasts, whether it is Sirius XM or any podcast listening app, YouTube, or Amazon Fire and Roku. If you just download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app on those smart TVs, you can, of course. My name is Luke. I'll be your host, and today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. So today's episode is a big, long conversation with Brett Kollmann. We talked about the Vikings draft, J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner, draft grades, just the process of it, growing as a sort of independent creator without a football background in the industry. Really, really great conversation. So this is full transparency. This is a pre-recorded episode. I'm recording this on April 30th. So it's pretty old. If there's some major news that happened at Jefferson Extension or something that you're waiting on me to talk about, I will get that when I'm back in town, but I am at this moment out of town and airing some pre-recorded episodes to keep your podcast feed sated and to stop it from getting so hungry that it starts to eat you. So without any further ado, here is Brett Kollmann. All right, everybody, very excited here with Brett Kollmann, media luminary? Is that...
Good word. I would say media dumbass, but
media
points for vocab.
Participant. If you don't know Brett Kollmann, well, you tell people what your deal is.
Oh God, it's gotten so complicated the last couple of years because I have a terrible time saying no to anything. So I've got my own channel. Of course, the podcast channel, the Bootleg Football Podcast, which has been going on for 5 drafts now. Just had our 5th draft. I do videos with the Chargers as well. I collaborate with them and their YouTube team, which they crushed the draft, by the way. Just small aside, oh my God, they did great. I also do content with the NFL, so I'm working on this is for, I don't know, 6 of you out there, but I'm working on a 2006 Bob Sanders All-22
Oh
review.
my God.
Yeah.
That's sick.
I asked them, it's if they have mid-2000s Colts, and they're like, what year? And I was like, I don't know, all of them? They're like, yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm doing a video comparing Marvin Jr., Marvin Sr., 04 Marvin Sr. tape. I did pitch to them doing a Williams Wall episode, by the way. They do have that tape, so
are they still, is the league still mad about the Star Caps, or is it political?
There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Well, I feel like we're barreling toward getting you in trouble. So instead, let's talk about the draft, the Vikings draft. I hear you're a fan. So give me a broad stroke.
Wow, I'll say it with conviction, Luke.
So let's do broad strokes, and then we can get into the specifics of J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner and how these guys fit. But broad strokes, the Vikings trade up twice. They get these 2 players that are hopefully cornerstones on both sides of the ball. How do you think about their approach?
There's so many caveats here every time we talk about the Vikings, and I know that Vikings fans are used to that. Everybody putting 5 caveats before every single sentence, but I'm going to do it again. I was not in favor of them trading up for JJ. Okay. I was in favor of them taking JJ at 11 if he happened to fall there, or if he didn't fall there, I had a pretty comparable grade on Bo Nix. I thought they could have taken Bo Nix at 11.
Okay.
That being said, a tiny little baby trade up, 1 spot.
Yeah, it's they basically didn't.
I'm good with that, just to make sure you get him. Just to make sure that Vegas didn't do something crazy and panic after the Penix pick at 8. I think they were we've had our eye on this for a few months. Let's just toss a mid-round pick.
It was a fourth and a fifth and a seventh back.
Yeah, it's fine. You're spending a fourth and a fifth round pick just to make sure you get the guy that you've done so much work on that clearly wanted to be in Minnesota. Like, that's cool with me. Yeah. Especially when, they came back with a fourth round pick this year and got Kyrie Jackson, which I really, really loved. So I'm good with it all. And then the Dallas Turner trade, that one was very expensive, but also at the same time, if you're looking at the scheme fit of Dallas Turner in Minnesota, like having a highly athletic edge that can set the run because he's got crazy length and he's really good at setting the run. B, get after it as a pass rusher, but C, drop. Like this is a defense that will drop their edges. They want to have the option of dropping their edges, and Dallas Turner can do that. He's athletic enough to do that. Where, I was on Mina's show a little bit earlier, and we brought this up of like, why are we justifying taking a pass rusher that we're going to put into coverage? Like, it does matter in this defense. If you're bringing 4 week and you have to drop the other edge and he might get matched up picking up a crossing route on a wide receiver, he better run 4.4. And guess what? Dallas Turner runs 4.4. So he's one of the edges in this class that they kind of really zeroed in on for that reason, because they know what kind of crazy stuff they do on third downs. And that those blitzes are all well and good, but if they block it up and then you get Danielle Hunter once upon a time matched up on a receiver, it's a very different equation than Dallas Turner.
We had a DJ Wanham moment.
Yeah, you don't want that.
2022.
Once upon a time they had Zadarius Smith matched up on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, it's cool to just have edges that can cover from time to time.
Right. So, and the Vikings have taken that every time they play that kind of defense, like the Packers run it all the time. There's these famous shots of like Preston Smith like manned up on Justin Jefferson.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
Yeah, it's interesting because like they called the Giants bluff. They sat there and let the Giants pick, saying we don't think you're actually going to take a QB, and they were right. And then they didn't call if the Broncos were bluffing, which I kind of don't believe Sean Payton when he says that, but they did take that serious. They didn't believe Sean Payton was bluffing either, and they took that, but it was so cheap too that like, yeah, you might as well be safe, I guess.
Yeah, I think the first 2 picks, or really the first 3 picks, define this draft for them. And even if those are the only ones that hit, that's a successful draft.
Yeah, because the rest of it, a hit is a backup, like whatever.
Yeah. And like the Rouse pick was all right. For a 6th round, I was fine with that. You took a kicker in the 6th, which, it's so funny. There's debates about whether or not you should draft kickers, right?
Yeah, I am familiar and heavily involved.
I see both sides of it. So for the sake of me not getting stabbed, I'll stay out of that one. And then Michael Juergens, they got a backup center that may or may not make the roster. Could be a practice squad guy. And then you get
7th rounders. And the A&M Commerce guy. But well, let's get into some of the specifics about those two, about McCarthy and Turner. That'll come up next. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by eBay Motors. Look, if you need something for your car, you don't want to skimp on that. You definitely don't want to haphazardly navigate the jungle of what does and doesn't fit your ride and your ride specifically. Your car is a part of who you are as an individual. It's how you get from one place to another. It's probably something that you use every single day, and how you keep it and how you express yourself through your car is like a part of who you are. So take it serious and go to eBay Motors. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back, whether that's something like an LED or a roof rack or something cosmetic or something under the hood that it actually needs to keep going and keep doing what it needs to do for you to keep your life intact. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to find last-minute tickets, whether you are going to a sporting event like a Twins game, or perhaps you are going to a concert, theater, some other event, anything you got to buy tickets for, and you maybe need to buy those tickets last minute because you're either just a bad planner or maybe you are trying to save a buck by pushing it right to the last second. Gametime's perfect for that. And even an hour into the event, you can still get tickets. So if you just decide, man, this game's kind of interesting, what if we roll over and went, you can find tickets at Gametime. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it is, because at a certain point, people are just trying to get rid of their tickets and they can pass the savings on to you and navigate and find the best deals. The best deals. That's the Gametime guarantee. They will credit you 110% of the difference if you find the same row and section for less. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Moving right along with this episode of the Locked On Vikings podcast, sitting here with Brett Kollmann. Brett, do you know about the Locked On 24/7 live streams that we have? We have a Minnesota sports live stream that's this show, Locked On Timberwolves, Locked On Wilds, Twins, roundtable shows, Gophers, all of it on a 24/7 loop on the Locked On Minnesota Sports YouTube channel. And if you're interested in national sports, there's one for all major sports on Locked On Sports today. Pretty cool stuff.
Big week in Minnesota sports, by the way.
Big week of Minnesota sports. Yes, there's a lot.
Who do you think is a bigger star in Minnesota right now? Justin Jefferson or Ant-Man?
I know better than to answer that question. I mean, at this moment, Anthony Edwards is going crazy and Justin Jefferson isn't playing any games. So, that's it. But
I'm curious to see who sells more jerseys this year.
Yeah, there you go.
Especially once Jefferson gets paid.
It's always been more of a football town than a basketball town. But we've never had a point where the basketball team is good. Like since 2004, they've never been like good, They've been, maybe they sneak into the playoffs, but they haven't advanced into the playoffs since 2004. And so this is the first time of that, especially if the Vikings are not great and then the Timberwolves are, that you could see that kind of thing shift. But good luck to them against the Nuggets. As we are recording this, that series has not started yet, but it might be well underway by the time this airs. So give me your shtick on JJ McCarthy. I know you've done a lot of work on him. I know you've got a lot of videos about. I know you've got your rankings and stuff in your mock drafts and all that stuff. So I know you've done your homework on JJ McCarthy. Tell me the deal.
So this was one of the hardest QB evaluations I've ever done because it took me more games than I've ever had to do just to get the volume of pass attempts that I felt comfortable with the eval, right? Especially pass attempts down the field, like big boy NFL throws. It's a similar kind of thing with Bo Nix. I had to watch more games of Bo Nix just to get comfortable with Bo Nix because of just the nature of their offense. There's only so many like bubble screens and all that kind of stuff you can watch in a row before you're like, I started
just fast forwarding.
Yeah, right. But then you'll see Nix roll out and do a crazy crossbody throw to Troy Franklin for a touchdown. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that plays. So I had to watch a lot of JJ similar to Bo to get comfortable with it. But once I got 7 or 8 games in against, or in some really bad games, like the Bowling Green game that everybody talks about, some really good games, I started to see the vision. This is a well-built, I'm talking well-built. Like when I was down on the field at the combine next to him, I was like, oh, okay, he never misses leg day. People made a big deal about the listed weight that he had, but I think that was a very old listing because that 220 that he came into the combine was real. Like that was not combine water weight. Like that was real weight. This kid is big. Great arm. Great arm, can really attack every single blade of grass that you want to attack in the NFL. Like he was making whole shot throws against cover 2 from the far hash in college, which is harder to do in college than it is in the NFL because the hashes are wider. So he's got a gun. Really athletic. He can do all the boot stuff you want him to do, but he's also a good creator when things break down. Good at throwing on the move. very good under pressure, specifically on third downs. My one hang up with him, and you saw it in the Bama game, you saw it in a couple other games. It's kind of funny how similar to Kirk Cousins this is gonna read, but there's like 4 or 5 plays a game where I'm sitting there watching JJ, and I genuinely don't know what he's looking at. I really honestly do not know what he's looking at. Pre-snap.
Is it the turn downs? Because it's the turn downs. There's some stuff where it's like, you're looking right at that? It's clearly in your progression. Like, why didn't you throw it? Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because he was coached so conservatively, like, don't turn the ball over. We're going to win the game if you don't turn the ball over. And so he only made throws that, like, he absolutely knew 100%. Like, unless it was third down. Third down was a little bit different. But I'm talking like first and second down design shot plays where I'm like, buddy, it's there. And he just wouldn't pull the trigger unless it was wide open. It was very like, see it, throw it. There was a flea flicker they ran, I think, to Cornelius Johnson. I swear. So they're lined up on the left hash and they run a flea flicker. Cornelius Johnson's like super wide split all the way on the right. And it's like the longest developing like dig route you've ever seen. And they threw it off a flea flicker because it's so like comically long developing for like a 18-yard completion.
That drove me nuts with him, by the way. Watching JJ McCarthy, I'm going like, my God, 6 takes forever to do anything. And I laughed when he got drafted.
You can tell that JJ's young, right? You can tell. And honestly, Vikings fans, feel free to let me know if this is insane. I'm okay with Darnold starting for the year.
That's not insane. No, that's the plan. If it takes the whole year, it's whatever time he needs. That's what he is here for.
Because I don't think JJ's ready because, again, 4 to 5 times a game, I'm like, buddy, I got no explanation for this. And in the NFL, those 4 to 5 plays are literally the difference between having a great game and a terrible game. So if you just want somebody to drive the bus, he can drive the bus. But if you want somebody who can both elevate the team and not make mistakes, I don't know if he's there yet. Like, I really do think he is a backup level quarterback right now. Doesn't mean that he's not going to be a starting quarterback in 2025, 2026, but I don't think he's there yet, which is why I didn't advocate for trading up. Because if you're trading up, I think it's because we're getting a guy who's starting week 1. I don't think JJ can start week 1. Doesn't mean he's not going to be tremendous down the line, but like Sam Darnold needs to start this year because he's at least now, not earlier in Darnold's career, at least now, I think Darnold knows what he's looking at. I don't think JJ does yet.
I think the situation is like McCarthy will have his opportunity to prove that to get into camp, and there'll be a battle. But assuming that they do have like a development plan for him, and that it doesn't mean week 1 is like right away. The plan really is it's Sam Darnold until JJ McCarthy is ready, until Kevin O'Connell is satisfied with the work that he has done. And I think he's got a list of things that he wants to do. That's kind of the way he's talked about it. But real quick, so you're really stoked on Dallas Turner too. Him falling to 17, kind of crazy, but also it's just that there was this huge run on offense. Like no defense went at all. So yeah, someone's getting pushed down the board. Because I mean, if Dallas Turner did go, then it would have been somebody else crazy getting pushed down the board. So give me your Dallas Turner spiel.
I think length and power matters in the NFL. It's one thing to have speed and burst and bend and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I had Dallas ranked ahead of Latu, even though Latu is further along in terms of his development, in terms of moves and everything like that, and he's even bigger, he doesn't have the length or the power that Dallas Turner has. And I think ultimately NFL football is a big people sport, or at least playing big. And Dallas Turner plays big. He has much better power than Latu or most of the edges in this class. And when you're going against, Lane Johnson, Tyron Smith, Trent, any of these just big, Penei Sewell, big hulking left tackles that are, 320 plus. If they also happen to be freak athletes that can get to their landmarks as fast as you can get to yours, and they're going to catch you around the edge and neutralize that speed. Or if they're not going to fall for all the cross chop stuff that Latu does all the time, like they're going to flash their hand, pull it, and then come back and get you.
Yeah, Jordan Morgan.
Yeah,
in the division.
100%. You need to have power, because when all else fails, you need to be able to just run through somebody. And Dallas Turner, even though he's not the heaviest guy, if you're looking at how he uses his length, ironically, it's very similar to how Jonathan Grenard uses his length. Also very long arms. I think he had 35-inch arms, Grenard, where it's not 260 plus, but they're so long that when they go for that stab, they're outreaching a tackle and they're making contact before the tackle can get into their chest. And also they're coming from a better natural leverage advantage because they're a little bit shorter. And so if you have a really long arm with a lot of pop in your chest that's coming at a point lower than you're going to go backwards. I don't care how big you are at tackle. And so Dallas Turner being able to run around the edge and also have inside counters and being able to just win with power and collapse the pocket, that to me is a rusher that has every component to their game. And those are the types of rushers that win in the NFL. It's very rare that you see an edge rusher in the league that doesn't have a power component that is really, really productive. Like TJ Watt's one of the only ones, because TJ Watt is TJ Watt. Mm-hmm. But most of their other top pass rushers in the NFL, they can just move you backwards against your will repeatedly, over and over and over again. The fact that he went at 17 was very surprising to me. I thought he could have gone at 8 and it wouldn't have made sense.
Like everybody had that, but 8 got weird.
So, when they saw the opportunity and, the Kevin O'Connell face became a meme because I don't think he could believe it. Like, I was the same way. Like, I could not believe that he was even available for them to trade up. And yeah, it was expensive, but he's a really damn good player. So who cares?
So the draft is a bit of a moving target, is maybe the way I'll put it, right? We've all got L's in our past. But I think the way that you have grown over your career, and I've been following you for years and years, since before YouTube, is really awesome. And I just want to talk to you about that. So that is going to be next. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is online therapy made easy. And if you're thinking about getting into therapy, whether it's because you got something going on that you want some help dealing with, or even just as maintenance for your mental health, like going to the gym, but for your mental, which is very important, and I highly recommend getting into therapy, BetterHelp can help you get past that barrier of like trying to schedule it around your daily routine. BetterHelp is meant to be online and flexible and easy, whether it's a video chat or even just texting, calling, whatever you're comfortable with, BetterHelp can get you set up. And they'll set you up with a therapist they think is right for you. But if you don't jive with that therapist, you can switch to somebody else at no additional charge. And I highly recommend that you consider doing that, because it might take a couple tries to get a therapist that's right for you. That's like part of getting a good experience out of therapy, is making sure that you have somebody that's right. So that's very important. So get out of the clouds and go to BetterHelp.com. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Okay, moving along with this Locked On Vikings episode, talking to Brett Kollmann here. So Brett, you got started in this, I'll call it the football media space, not the way that everybody else does. No journalism school, right? No, it's everything I think is self-taught, right? From football to production to all of that. You really just kind of elbow grease your way into creating something that you can really be proud of. I think that is so freaking cool. And I just wanted to say that. I think that's awesome. But I also just want to talk to you about the experience of that. And am I even right? Or did you go to film school and I didn't even know?
So it's funny. I went to film school, but I didn't.
Okay.
90% of what I learned came from just working in the industry.
Yeah. I went to film school too, and everything I've learned is about doing 3-camera sitcoms on DV tape with cameras
not applicable
worth
at
about
all.
$30 now. Yeah, it's. I learned film, actually how to load a camera with film. That's not useful to me.
Yeah, and when when we learned to edit, it was on Final Cut, but like I use Premiere, so it's like a different program.
Yeah, Adobe wasn't real yet, I think.
Yeah, when we took, at least nobody like respected it. It was still Final Cut.
They made me learn Avid. Yeah.
Oh God, that's even worse. Oh, good Lord. It's funny too, because like now Premiere's getting phased out.
People swear by it. There's still people that won't move off it.
Everybody's doing Resolve now, and so now it's like, oh,
Yeah,
God, I gotta learn DaVinci now. But it's like film school, I swear to God, is like 15 years. Whatever they're teaching in film school right now is 15 years behind like what is actually being done.
Yeah.
And so I learned so much more from my internship, which was at NFL Media at the time, which then turned into a job at NFL Media when I graduated. But I learned so much more from that than like, my sitcom writing class. Like I've never written a sitcom.
All right. Sitcom, the writing classes, we had to do like 2 writing credits, and it's like, yeah. But I to be honest though, you do write. You write videos. You write. It's a different topic. It's a different tone. But the linguistic skill of taking an idea and boiling it into something that is entertaining and digestible, like that does kind of translate.
Yeah, I do think that the Bob's Burgers spec script that I wrote in 2014, 100%
it's an exercise.
Has built this empire.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing too, because you've done, I think, this episode of the Brett Kollmann film room a couple times, which is like, here's stuff I got wrong and what I learned from it. I think that rocks. And something that we don't see a lot in the draft space, because it takes 2-3 years for a draft prospect to pan out. So everyone that was like way anti Justin Herbert, by the time we figured out that Justin Herbert was real, we all kind of forgot who was who on that fight, and everyone gets away with it, but you don't let yourself get away with it. And I think that rocks. So I guess I want to hear about one. Give me one where you very distinctly learned something.
Oh, okay. There was a slew, like very early in my career, and still, I mean, I'm still going to miss on quarterbacks.
It's the draft. Everyone misses. Teams miss on like 2/3 of these guys. Like it.
I've gotten a lot better at quarterback over the years. Like a couple of years ago, I had Jalen Hurts as a first-round pick, and at the time, everybody was like, here's Brett with his stupid quarterback opinions again, which I do have stupid quarterback opinions. I think that next year after that, I had Malik Willis as a first-round pick.
All that means is that you aren't beholden to consensus. If anyone says they're stupid, it just means that they looked at a big board that said something different first.
But I mean, it's not like the Eagles disagreed. Like they took him at the earliest possible opportunity in the second round, even when they had Carson Wentz at the time. So that when Hurts got taken, I was like, okay, I'm not insane. I might be wrong, but I'm not insane. At least somebody else agreed, right? But earlier in my career, I had a slew of terrible misses, putting Deshaun Kaiser at QB1. I was a Hackenberg guy. Like I was really bad at quarterback because I had a rigid belief system of what a quarterback prospect should be. I thought everybody should look like Peyton Manning. I thought, and that's why I was like, I was so big on Teddy Bridgewater coming out. Cause I was like, oh, look at the footwork and the balls, high and tight. Like he's holding it up here by his ear. Like he looks like what a pocket quarterback is supposed to be. And yes, Teddy did look like what a pocket quarterback was supposed to be. Played 10 years, by the way, had a pretty solid career. But like that was the standard that I judged college quarterbacks, was like, how much do they look like Peyton Manning? And up until that time, the air raid, there was components of the air raid that was making its way to the NFL, roughly 10, 15 years ago. But it wasn't super widespread yet. And up to that point, the most successful air raid quarterback in the NFL was Case Keenum. And so I was like, I don't know, that system just doesn't really translate to the NFL because the NFL just doesn't run air raid type stuff. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes goes to Andy Reid, who was at BYU when the air
designed to prove you wrong on that. Yeah.
I got murdered, right?
Yeah.
What I didn't realize at the time was like Andy Reid was around at BYU when the air raid was invented. He's the most air raid coach that's ever air raided. Like Andy's air raid. And so when Mahomes went there, people and myself included were like, it's pretty high. But it took me, I still vividly remember it. I think it was third start of Mahomes' career. They're playing against the Steelers. And he threw a touchdown to Travis Kelce up the seam against an inverted cover 2 where they bluffed a motion check. And it was like in the second quarter of that game, I want to say. I'm probably like a little off on that, but like it's seared into my brain, just the video of it. Third start, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna work. And so I made a video literally titled, I was wrong. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. and it's so funny because then the pendulum swung the other way. It's like, Brett, he's played 4 games. Like, shut up. And I was like, no. You don't understand. Rookie quarterbacks don't do this. Guys in their first 4 starts don't do this. This is utterly insane. And then Mahomes had his season that he had. And that moment was where it clicked for me of like, it's not about, does it look like Peyton Manning? It's about, can they see the field? Do they have spatial awareness? Do they have arm talent? Can they create? Are they coachable? I started kind of building a new rubric for how I graded quarterbacks. And I've slowly gotten better at quarterback evals because of that. Because I got rid of this rigid belief system that everything had to look like a typical pocket West Coast quarterback. And honestly, that was what led me to having Jalen Hurts as a first-round pick. Because I was like, okay, coachable. He's gotten better literally every single year of his career. 18-year-old Jalen Hurts is not the same as 21-year-old Jalen Hurts. He can create. He's mobile. He's accurate on the move. Like, he checked a lot of the boxes that I missed in my Mahomes eval, and that's why I had him as high as I did. And then Hurts ended up hitting. Again, bit me in the ass a little bit with Malik Willis, but on the whole, I think I've gotten better at that position because I got so much egg on my face from that 2017, 2018 period.
I think that's what's important. Like, so I start every Locked On Vikings episode with, every day we're trying to learn something new. And I think if you learn something new every time, like just, even if it's minor, even if it's just, there's that one play in his eval that kind of threw me off that I misunderstood because I didn't know that passing concept. Okay, now I know it. As long as there's that, I kind of don't care if I miss or hit a whole lot, as long as I'm like, feel like I'm getting a better understanding, because that's ultimately the goal. Nobody is going to be the guy that got every pick right. That's not a thing, right? And I don't think that I don't want to be somebody that, listeners go to and be like, and just take away, this is my opinion on these players, right? Like, I want people to understand deeper things. I don't want to be the guy that says, well, okay, I listened to Locked On Vikings. Now I know I don't like Penix and I do like, Drake May. And I don't want that to be the thing as much as I can control it, because I know I can't. But that's what I like. I like the idea of, okay, I messed this up. Here's what I learned. Here's where I'm better now. And that there's so much more value to that almost than there is on, I nailed the pick.
And I think the audience respects. I think the audience doesn't respect people who hide from their mistakes, and they respect people who own them and acknowledge them as learning moments.
Yeah,
because I make a ton of mistakes constantly, but like, I don't take down old videos that are bad. I don't run from the fact that, like, I had Deshaun Kaiser as QB1 over Patrick Mahomes. Like, I embrace that because it's evidence of the journey. It's evidence of growth. And I think ultimately the audience respects people more that are willing to own mistakes and grow than they respect people that only talk about the hits and put up a facade that they're infallible. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows that that's impossible. Even NFL teams are aiming for 50%. So, like, I'm not going to act like I'm any better than them, because I'm not.
Yeah. Well, Brett, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much. Tell people where they can find you if they haven't somehow learned that already.
You can find me over at Brett Kollmann on YouTube. I have a very German spelling of my name, so it's Kollmann, which I know up in the upper Midwest is you guys all spell your names in weird, funky European ways. You could also find me on the Chargers channel, on the NFL's YouTube channel, and on the Bootleg Football Podcast.
Brett, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching or listening to Locked On Vikings. I will be back stateside on May 20th. That Monday will be the first live show, so that will be like catch up on the news day, but otherwise we're continuing on with some of these pre-recorded episodes. I've got some really fun stuff coming up that I'm really excited to share with you, but I'm not going to tell you too much about it. So keep on keeping on, and I will see you all next time. And as always, Skol.